Welcome to r/EscalatingRevenge, an amazing subreddit with stories where the revenge gets sweeter and sweeter and often more severe over time. Now disgraced physician gets what's coming to him. Again and again and again. Thanks for killing my wife. This really happened to me, and due to the sensitive nature of it all, including court appearances, licensing ramifications of the accused, and just out of respect for the unnecessarily short life of my first, I will change all names and locations, and enough of the details that don't matter, like what state, etc., so that privacy is kept. Either 10, 20, or 30 years ago, I married my high school sweetheart, Betty. I just graduated high school, and she was staying in high school, pregnant with our first child, Frankie, at age 18-19. Throughout her pregnancy and our dating, I was informed of Betty's condition of epilepsy. She had infrequent seizures, and I've seen her have a grand mal seizure twice before the incident, once while eating and once on a family hike. The light flickering through the trees triggered it, we think. So later down the road, we have our second child, living on our own in a trailer park in Bloxnart. My wife has always been a little bit punk, dyeing her hair many times over and over, and now having to shave her head as a result of her extremely damaged hair. She dyed what was left of her hair pink. She was a belly dancer, had a style of her own, and really had a don't F with me vibe that she gave off to anybody but me and our two boys, Frankie and Sam. These aren't just nostalgic details, they're important to the slowly increasing plots. That being said, one afternoon, while Betty is getting ready to drop the boys off at Grandma's to hit the mall, she had another seizure, a bad one. It's hard to be too descriptive without choking up right now, but she knew it was coming the second before. She hits the ground. I do my part to put her on her side and sweep the mouth. I know this is frowned upon now for some reason, but it's what her parents trained me to do. I call an ambulance, telling them, "Help, my wife is having a grand mal seizure, a bad one," whilst trying to instruct my frightened 3-year-old to go to mummy's bedroom. Sammy was hardcore napping at 11 months, literally inches away. The ambulance shows up and takes her. I stay back because grandma isn't there yet for the kids. I called to make sure she'd be there soon, otherwise I'd have to drag the kids with me to the local hospital. Grandma gets there and I drive to the hospital as fast as possible. I get there pretty quick and talk to the doctor within a few minutes. The ER physician we'll call Dr. Thorough, steeped in irony, whose mercy I was at, told me that we're going to put her under to do a CAT scan/MRI/something having nothing to do with her epilepsy. In my naivety, not understanding that I can tell him what I want him to do, I just said, okay. I did tell him, however, that she had a seizure and has had seizures in the past, etc. But he didn't believe that the seizure was epileptic in nature. He asked me about drugs she's taken, alcohol, etc. And I told him, no, she doesn't do that, but she did have a drink a couple of nights ago. He was super convinced, based on her appearance I presume, that this was drugs and that she just needed to get it out of her system. Toxicology comes back, no drugs in system. Dr. Thoreau says, this doesn't test for all drugs out there. Wow, doc. So she's put under now, kept in that state. In the meanwhile, no EEG machine, which measures brainwaves, to determine that, yeah, she's having a seizure, Dumbo, give her some phenobarb or whatever. I didn't know the importance of all this at the time, so we're just waiting for this test and that test and for her to come out of the underness or whatever. This takes a day and a half. They finally allow/acquire an EEG machine with an EEG tech, and come to find out I was right, that all along she was having seizures the entire time. Now she is brain dead. Now I'm signing DNRs and hospice and neurologists are asking me about Buddhism and if I've tried it. Nice try. So she died days later. Then something called 9/11 happened, which not only was 5 days after what would have been my wife's 23rd birthday, but exactly my 25th. Let's just say it was a rough year. My father-in-law tries to go to one of those law tigers with the case, but they say it needs to come from the husband. At first, I didn't want to go through this process, despite knowing that this mofo's arrogance caused my wife's demise. But I eventually lawyer up, get referred to a great attorney on contingency, and begin the lawsuit process. Revenge is starting. EEG techs, hospitals, various entities involved in Betty's care, all separately settled out of court for unspecified amounts. Well, specified to me, obviously. This, though, is just the beginning of the revenge. Of all the entities that bowed out of the fight and handed over a check, the arrogant doc wasn't having it. He wanted a trial. He really wanted me to have to relive the pain that I've been going through the past couple of years just to protect his or her name. So we take it to court. Revenge by jury. 7-2 in favor of the plaintiff. Dr. Thoreau fell below the standard of care. Judgment for umpteen $1 million. Goodbye money. Civil suit done, enter fallout in the medical community. Ultimate revenge is that the doctor had his license suspended for a time and didn't practice medicine for a long time. Then he tried his or her hand at different types of professions, unemployable in the medical field, to this day. Right now, that doctor is broker than I ever was. Listen guys, I'll be completely honest. I'll be the first to say that I do love a revenge story. When someone's been wronged and you get sufficient and right justice, there's nothing that I love more than that. And there is a reason why revenge subreddits like this one are some of my favorite on Reddit. However, in this story, I've got to tell the truth. I don't really feel like you got much revenge at all. Yeah, you ruined the guy's career, but he killed your wife. Like this, we're not really speaking about a couple of things that are even in the same ballpark there. Like, it's nuts. That's the least that deserved to happen to this man. Like, he deserved to go to prison. Sorry, man or woman. Deserved to go to prison, right? Is this not just clear neglect and just ultimate arrogance? And ultimately, if you're in this position of power, which you are as a doctor or a physician or whatever role this person had, and you don't do your job, and that ends in you actually, causing someone's death, is that not manslaughter? Like, yeah, you ruined his job and his professional life, but I feel like he deserves to go to prison for this, not just not get much money. Do you get what I'm saying? Guys, in the comments, let me know if you agree. Let's move on. Now for our second story of escalating revenge. Should have just let me walk away with my share. All you had to do was let me walk away. Some background. I am a practicing internal medicine physician and formerly a 50% owner in what was once a fairly successful med spa with 4 locations, at least until what happened below. Before anyone accuses me of breaking the law, blah blah blah, don't. This has been litigated, resolved, and I won. But it is a fun story. In the beginning, my business partner and I were mere acquaintances, working with a large hospitalist practice. Looking for extra income to pay our student loans, we decided to band together and open a med spa offering Botox, minor cosmetic procedures, B12 infusions, etc. And it was a huge hit, big enough for us to go full-time and expand. This lasted around 7 years. Beginnings of problems. My partner decides that his wife isn't enough for him and begins to step out on her. Now, this is none of my business, however, it does become my business when you embezzle money to pay for your sugar baby's gifts from our business accounts. Fast forward a few years, and I've sat on this information because business overall was too good to walk away from. However, COVID changed things and we had to close 2 of our 4 locations. My partner has never been great with money or time management, which is why for the most part, I handled all of the back office stuff, from ordering supplies to billing and payroll and so on. This comes into play later. Around 6 months ago, I began looking for a new position and found a new job. I didn't want to leave my partner in a hard spot, so I gave him a 90-day notice to find another partner or otherwise get his business affairs in order before I resigned. He instead used this time to siphon off more funds for his side piece and allow his unruly children to ransack my office while I was away on a family vacation, and frequently not showing up to work or showing up late or super hungover, leaving me to do extra work. So it was my time to go and get even. Finally, the time had come to wind down my time. Per our agreement, my partner was to buy out my 50% of the practice, which we agreed would occur on the Monday of my last week. Basically, I'd take 50% of our liquid assets as a bank transfer. Monday, upon checking, the bank account had been locked out, and upon regaining access, I found that $30,000 of my half had been moved to an account I did not have access to. I had it, and spent the next few days plotting my revenge. Remember those back office things that I handled above? Well, all of those documents, processes, order forms, etc., well, they're all on our shared office hard drive, and absolutely vital to the practice, and way too much work for my partner to do himself in a short time. Now, I just so happened to buy an identical model and take the original hard drive home with me. Upon plugging the hard drive in, I found a backup of his calendar, pictures and emails between he and his mistress, which I forwarded to his wife. The following day, I ran a full-page ad in the local paper announcing a special holiday deal on our services, which we had planned. And lastly, I hired some college students to write a slew of bad reviews on Google and Yelp to tank the overall ratings. Aftermath. The week after my departure, the clinic was insanely busy and quickly ran out of supplies. Since the order forms etc. were gone, he had to turn away new and long-standing clients. My partner sued for the documents etc. and I countersued for the $30,000 he owed me. We settled by exchanging the two. I've since heard his wife divorced him, his mistress left him, and subsequently he has filed for bankruptcy as the clinic never recovered. And his wife cleaned him out. I, on the other hand, really like my new job. Okay, that is more like it. That seems like more justified revenge. You know, eye for an eye sort of stuff. Rather than your wife dying and then you saying, okay, you're not going to be a doctor anymore, and that being that, this is more fair, which I love. Honestly, I would just say this is excellent revenge. I mean, your business partner was doing terrible things. You weren't really getting a good deal anyway. You were putting in way too much work for what you were getting out of it, just 50%. It felt like, to be honest, you were putting in maybe 70 to 80% of the effort, and he was just putting in, I don't know, a little bit on the side. So, yeah, being able to just get out of there and also destroy him at the same time, excellent revenge. Good stuff. Now for our third escalating revenge post. Petty revenge on my abusive mother turned into 9 years of torment. She never knew it was me responsible for the clink. This happened in 2004 when I was 14. A bit of backstory before I begin. My mother is not a good person. She was abusive verbally for most of my life until I was 14, when her abuse turned physical. Because of her abuse, I came up with creative ways to punish her in my own petty ways, like tampering with her food and dunking her toothbrush in the toilet every day. This story is one of my better petty revenges towards her, and the one that annoyed her the most. I talked to my friends about the things she did to me, and although I appreciated the advice to go to the police, I knew that wouldn't work. My mother is very convincing when she wants to be, and every other time I went to the police, they never believed me. One of my friends, who we'll call Tom, gave me a brilliant idea that would annoy her to no end, but wouldn't get me in trouble. His dad is a mechanic, so Tom knows his way around a car. After school that day, I went with him to his house. He showed me a place underneath the car, between the top of the front wheel and the side of the engine, and told me what to do. Bring on the pettiness. I had to wait a few days to enact my revenge, but the day finally arrived. My mother and my sister left the house to ride their horses, which gave me plenty of time to do what needed to be done. The next day I went with my mum and sister to do grocery shopping, and I was elated to hear the product of my labour as the car started to drive down the driveway. Clink, clink, clink. Yes, dear readers, I attached a rock to the end of a string inside the car that made a loud clink sound every few seconds when the car was moving. What the heck is that? Asked my mum. No idea. Maybe you should get the mechanic to have a look at it. Remember how I said that Tom's dad is a mechanic? Well, he's the only mechanic in the town we lived in, and Tom made sure to tell his dad about the things my mother did to me. Needless to say, he was on my side. So after we'd done our shopping, we stopped at the mechanic so they could look at it and fix whatever needed fixing. As we arrived at the mechanic, my mum said, "Hi there. Well, my car is making a weird noise when I'm driving. Can you look at it for me?" "Sure thing. How about you take a seat inside and I'll give it a drive and see what the problem is," said the mechanic. He got in the car and drove it around the block. When he returned, the noise had miraculously stopped. He charged my mum for the check and we were on our way. But not before Tom's dad subtly handed me the rock back and gave me a wink and a smile as I left. That night I put the rock back in place and left it to do its thing for the next day. And oh boy was this satisfying. The next day the noise was back, so mum was back at the mechanic. But this time the mechanic couldn't find anything wrong with it and couldn't hear any noise. I never bothered taking the rock out after that, and neither did the mechanic. He'd experienced her entitlement firsthand and had heard many stories from other people around town about her. The rock wasn't damaging the car or affecting its performance, so there was nothing that actually needed fixing. I moved away to live with my dad when I was 16, but before I moved, the clink was still there, tormenting my mother every time she drove the car. I lost count of the number of times she took it back to the mechanic and the amount of money she spent on getting rid of the clink. Now here is where my petty revenge turned pro out of sheer good luck. The last time I saw my mother, I was 23, back in 2013, and she still has the same car. Now I'd expected the rock to have fallen out by then, but the car still has a clink. Thanks, Tom. And there we go, saving the best till last. Yeah, it's not the most severe revenge, but that is the exact point of this subreddit. The whole point is that it's escalating. Can you imagine the daily torment that your mum, OP, had to go through or has been through for how long? What, a decade? Sorry, you're saying that this first started when you were 14, and when you were 23, it was still going on. That's in 2013. Who knows? We're 10 years on after that now. OP is now 33. Who knows? The clinks could still be there to this day. That is the literal definition of escalating revenge. Doing literally nothing else to the car, but still ruining your mum's life, or at least affecting it negatively every single day. That is sheer brilliance. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this one. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you want more escalating revenge, the episode that I posted the other day seems to go down really well with you guys. It's on screen right here, and it's also linked down in the description if you're on a podcast platform. With that all being said, hope you enjoyed it. Sadly, this is quite a small subreddit as it stands. Hope there's going to be more escalating revenges posted in the near future. Or I could just go and find some of my own on the internet. It is a wonderful thing. With that all being said, I'll see you guys tomorrow for some more Reddit stories.